This week on Unscripted, we're going to talk about a couple news stories coming out of Monday Night Raw. Plus, we'll talk about the XFL and what their announcement was this past week, and updates on a couple contracts for a few superstars that will be expiring next year. This and more on the future #1 podcast right here on YouTube.com. This is Unscripted. What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here again for episode 48 of Unscripted for your Saturday, December 8th, 2018, with 2 episodes left of Unscripted this year. And the year 2018 is coming to a fast close. As we do every single week, we talk about what happened on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. NXT UK is on its own little island. We don't really bring it into these news stories here unless something breaks like we had last week with the contracts and everything for them. But Monday Night Raw was not the worst show in the world. That was last week. It was actually slightly a little bit better. And it felt like the Ronda Rousey show, as Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez stated on the Wrestling Observer Radio, because Ronda opened the show after the 10-bell salute. She closed the show, and she was in the middle of the show. As we all know, though, it is more of a Baron Corbin show because he's on, literally, the show is 3 hours. And I believe somebody, I don't remember who it was, timed how long, like the accumulative time Baron Corbin had this past Monday. And he had at least 60 minutes of on-air time. That is ridiculous. I don't know what Vince McMahon's whole idea is about having the GM take up 1/3 of the show, but it's absolutely ridiculous. He had the cringe-like open forum for Sasha Banks and Bayley again, which, you know how well that went last week. Didn't go much better this week. All I know is if WWE is going to do one of these things where you have plants in the crowd, which I guess they were from Booker T's RCW, or, I'm sorry, not RCW, ROW, Reality of Wrestling, or whatever it's called, that's where those plants came from. Have men and women who have charisma, and gives them questions that actually don't sound horrible. Like the guy who was like, "Oh, it's a really silly question, but if you could have one superpower, what would it be?" Like, what? I don't want to hear that. That is stupid. Give me a break. Don't have somebody say that. That just makes it look bad. It makes the entire thing look bad. It was just, oh boy. It was bad. The biggest difference between this week and last week, of course, is that the babyfaces, until Finn Balor got destroyed by Drew McIntyre towards the end of the show, the babyfaces were more dominant than the heels this week. Last week, the heels just came out and destroyed everybody and made themselves all look like, hey, this is the heel Monday Night Raw, a.k.a. I said something on Twitter on Monday. It was Monday Night Raw, also known as heels something something. It was like heels stand tall or something. This is what the heels play. They don't know how to book a babyface right. It's like, thank gosh Drew McIntyre came up to Monday Night Raw as a heel, because if he came up as a babyface, he'd be dead in the water and wouldn't even be talked about right now. Drew McIntyre turned on Dolph Ziggler, and we got Dolph Ziggler versus Drew McIntyre, with Drew McIntyre getting pinned. And I did listen to Wrestling Observer Radio before I started recording this, about an hour or so before, and Brian Alvarez did make a solid point on this. I listened to the review, and the fact is, Drew McIntyre could have lost this match, but he shouldn't have been pinned or submitted. This was his first pinfall or submission loss since coming back to the main roster. They mentioned that when Drew McIntyre got hit with the drop kick by Finn Balor on the outside, he thought, Brian Alvarez thought that they were going to count Drew McIntyre out. Makes sense. That's what should have happened. It should have been a count out. Drew McIntyre loses. He got the match was cost. Finn Balor cost in the match. Dolph Ziggler still won. Everything can still happen the way it was. Drew McIntyre's first loss, since you're putting so much stock into this guy, should have been at like a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble or a SummerSlam or something like that. Not just a random episode of Monday Night Raw that was written by Vince McMahon, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then you had nothing else really on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, you had the Dean Ambrose. I forgot. Dean Ambrose coming out with a bunch of guys with gas masks on. And it's like, no. Yeah, it's just, no. I'm just going to skip. Move on. And not much else. You had Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon take on Tamina and Nia Jax in the main event, which, when it came down to it, and earlier in the night, of course, the beatdown, which we have a contradicting story or something that makes no sense why it was news if it's not true. But the show started off with Ronda Rousey and Natty. It was supposed to be Ronda Rousey and Natty versus Nia Jax and Tamina. Riot Squad come out and put Natty through a table. A little bit later, Ronda Rousey yells at Alexa Bliss for what happened earlier in the night, and she said, "I don't trust you." She's the only person at this time who's a smart babyface. Says, "I don't trust you. I'll find my own tag team partner." And the only person that made sense was Ember Moon. People were sitting there and like there were certain people saying like, "Oh, if it's Ember Moon, I'm not watching the main event." And it's like, who else was it gonna be? I even noted this on my Raw review. Every single woman in the women's division was used up until that point, except for Ember Moon. The opening segment, you had Ronda Rousey, Natalya, Tamina, Nia Jax, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan. That's from that tag team thing. That's them right there. Then you had the open forum where you had Alexa Bliss, you had Sasha Banks, you had Bayley, you had Dana Brooke, Alicia Fox, and Mickie James. The only woman left was Ember Moon. So anybody who sat there and complained, "Oh, wow, they're predictable," there was nobody else. You're not going to have Sasha Banks or Bayley show up just for the hell of it. They've already done their part tonight. They already had a match. Who else was there going to be? You're going to put Dana, who turned heel for whatever reason the week before? No. It was a pretty decent match, but Ember Moon and Ronda Rousey. And I still have the biggest complaint about Ronda Rousey's armbar, because it doesn't even look like an armbar. The armbar, you're supposed to take her arm and pull it back, but she just looks like she sits there, holds it in an elbow, like in a turned up position, and she just holds it there. It looks awful. She needs to work on her armbar. And that was pretty much all of Monday Night Raw. Then you had SmackDown, which was a good show. Which kind of sucks that they had damn near the lowest ratings ever. But we'll get into that later of why I believe why that has happened. You had the New Day. We had one member of the New Day to bind the Usos in a triple threat match. You had the contract signing for the women's TLC match, which we'll get into that on Becky Lynch of how she might not make it to TLC, why she is not cleared yet, but we'll get to that later. You had AJ Styles and The Miz in the main event after a damn good promo on Miz TV from Daniel Bryan. And then Daniel Bryan finished off the show by just being this evil, maniacal, genius-like heel. The new Daniel Bryan, like when he first turned heel and then his explanation, it was like lukewarm, but it was this, and there were people still cheering him. Taz even mentioned that Daniel Bryan should have taken his side plates off, the one that said yes, 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 and like throw him on the ground, which he did during Miz TV. Just Daniel, this week it was like, I'm booing this guy, I hate this guy, I cannot believe that this guy, I used to cheer for this guy. It was like when he turned heel, it's like, what is he doing? Oh, he's just going for the championship. Then he gives his explanation. It was like, back and forth. You have to think about it. And then it's like, some people are still cheering us and people are booing him. And now it's like, no, we're booing this motherfucker because he is a heel. Speaking of heels, NXT, only one thing you need to talk about. That end of segment. Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. It has been announced by William Regal that in 2 weeks' time, at least they said the 16th. Let me double check my calendar here. I'm sorry, the 19th if I'm correct. Yeah, the 19th of December, which I still think should be wrong. It should be the 26th. It should be the final, that cage match should be the final match of these tapings in December or in the beginning of January, whenever it is. But we will have the Tommaso and Aleister Black versus Johnny Gargano inside a steel cage. And the fact that you had Aleister Black call Tommaso Ciampa Puppet Master, and by the end of the night, you see the Puppet Master at work, goading and manipulating these two to agree to a steel cage match. Just a great time. If you have the WWE Network and you have not watched NXT, if you have not watched this week's episode of NXT, go to NXT, go to this week's NXT. You can. The rest of the show was. Punishment Martinez versus Matt Riddle's fine. You can skip the rest of the week if you want to. Just watch Punishment Martinez make his debut. And people are wondering, why did Punishment Martinez lose his first match? Let me think. Chris Dijak lost his first 2 matches. Leo Rush lost his first few matches in NXT. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly both lost to Aleister Black weeks before NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. And then they formed Undisputed Era with Adam Cole at the end of Brooklyn 3. So Punishment Martinez losing his first match to Matt Riddle is not a bad thing. I mean, yes, Keith Lee came in, started winning every match until he faced Lars Sullivan, which Lars should have did the honors, but we're not going to get into that. So, and like I said, Donovan Dijak or Chris Dijak came in, lost his 2 matches that we've seen. I think one was against Ricochet, and I'm pretty sure he had one against Aleister Black or somebody. Anyway, now we're seeing promo packages with his new name, Damian Dojovic. Dojovic, whatever it is. I can't even pronounce it at the time. So he's going to come in, and those losses that he had before aren't even going to matter. The two, like Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, are 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions, and they lost their first 2 matches. Their first match each to Aleister Black. So I'm pretty sure Punishment Martinez is going to be just fine. Other than that, that's your Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. But let's get on to the news here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Follow me on Twitter @TheFrance and twitch.tv/TheFrance08. Let's move on. We are going to talk about a couple things that came out of Monday Night Raw. One thing I did not mention is the fact that Heath Slater and Rhino were put into a loser leaves Raw match that lasted 30 seconds, or 60 seconds. With Rhino losing, Rhino being fired, and Heath Slater becoming a referee. We're not going to worry about the Heath Slater stuff, don't really care. But Mike Johnson of PW Insider is reporting that Rhino's firing last week on Raw seems to be just storyline based than anything else. Last week's Wrestling Inc. reported Rhino announced his retirement to a live crowd after being fired on TV. However, PW Insider was told as of this week, the Man Beast is slated to still take part in the company's South American tour that began on Tuesday, I believe. Although not officially reported anywhere, this South American tour might just be a square circle swan song for the ECW original after he has been at a memorial run for the wrestling veteran, not just in WWE, but NXT as well. If you've forgotten, Rhino made his debut 3 years ago, defeating none other than Elias, back before Elias was the Drifter. He came back. I remember that. I don't remember him facing Elias Sampson, as he was known back then. But I do remember Rhino in NXT. He faced off against Samoa Joe once. He faced off against a young Baron Corbin. Rhino came back and did what he didn't have to do. He didn't have to go to NXT. He knew the WWE style. Everyone knew who Rhino was, but he came to NXT and did. He had I think he was there for like 6 months. He came up from the brand split. He came up on SmackDown, gored Heath Slater, and then those two became the first ever SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. They lost the titles, were moved to Raw. Really hadn't done nothing since. So, if it is Rhino's swan song, then he's had a hell of a career. I expect him to probably be working as either an agent back behind Raw or SmackDown, or working in the Performance Center in NXT. If that is the case, anybody, and I mean any guy, any woman, or man or woman who wants to learn from somebody, you need to go talk to Rhino. He is one of the greats of wrestling. He is definitely, probably, I would expect him to. He would be he should be going to the WWE Hall of Fame. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's not going to be a headliner. He would be like the first or second person to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for a Hall of Fame class. But Rhino, If this is his swan song, maybe he could be a 2019, 2020 Hall of Fame last inductee. Who knows? I mean, they got Mark Henry in there now. Rhino, if he is retired, definitely Hall of Fame bound, in my opinion. Contradicting report here, as it appears that there was supposedly an injury that the Natalia powerbomb through the table was supposed to write her off. Over the past few months, Ronda has an ally in Natalia. There were plans to turn the latter heel until her father, Jim Neidhart, passed away. We talked about that, I believe, last week. While WWE has been teasing it, now it appears Natalia would take a small break. On this past Monday's Raw, Rousey and Natalia were in the match against Tamina Snuka and Nia Jax, but that never really happened because the Riot Squad interrupted. The trio ended up putting Natalia through a table. In the latest possession of the Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer speculated that Natalia has an elbow injury. The angle on Raw was done to replace her with Ember Moon in storyline. Unfortunately, this is actually wrong because it has been announced at TLC that Ruby Riott and Natalia will be in a TLC table match. I don't know why I said TLC table match, but they will be in a tables match. So anybody who has reported, I know Cultaholic reported it, I believe What Culture Wrestling also reported it, and whoever else, that Natalia is supposed to be taking time off to an elbow injury. Those reports have been false. I do know that Cultaholic came on and did a news report, I believe, yesterday, and they were like shocked that this table match is going to happen, but it's a table match. This would be Natalia's, I'm correct, second table match because I believe her and Beth Phoenix took on Lake Cool in a table match at Extreme Rules 8 years ago or something. 7, 8 years ago. I do not remember. But Natalia in a tables match. Hopefully it's on the main card because, not for Natalia's sake, but Ruby Riott should be on the main card of the pay-per-view. She is that good. Why did Monday Night Raw feel like it did? Why did Monday Night Raw feel like a Vince McMahon show? Because Vince McMahon rewrote Raw hours before the show. There have been several complaints by fans over the last few weeks regarding the quality of Monday Night Raw. It's actually just not over the last few weeks. That's the entire year outside of one episode, and that episode was the Gauntlet match episode where the first 2 hours was Seth Rollins versus John Cena, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and then it started falling off after Seth Rollins got eliminated with Braun Strowman winning that thing, but that was the last time Raw was even decent, at good to decent at best. Whether it is the inconsistent booking or bad promos, that's been all year. It has not been a good month for Vince McMahon's TV programs, adding the fact that this week's Raw had its lowest audience in history. There is a cause for concern. When it comes down to it, Vince himself might be to blame for writing of the show for this week and last week. On the latest on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer discussed how Raw was booked this week. In case you missed it, there was a different tone to the show. The babyfaces had the advantages throughout tonight. Something that hasn't happened in previous weeks. Finn Balor fought back against Raw's heels, and Ronda Rousey stood up on top at the end of the show. Meltzer indicated that outside forces were a result of change in tone. Meltzer reports that McMahon didn't arrive to Raw in Houston, Texas until 3 p.m. Central Time, so that had been 4 p.m. my time because I'm in the East, about 3 hours before the show began, because he was with his mother who lives in the area. I'm just going to say it, nothing against it, but his mother must be at least 100 years old, I'm just going to say, because he's 70, unless she had him in her 20s. That lady's gonna. I'm sure she's got the stubbornness of her son, and probably that's where he got it from. But okay, the shows were written by him at last minute to give it a more happy vibe due to the death of President George H.W. Bush. Since they were in Texas, in order to lift the somber mood in the area, Vince wanted to make fans go home happy. Oh, trust me, Vince. Nobody went home happy, even with you trying to do this. As noted, Vincent also reportedly wrote last week's show as well, which was widely panned as one of the worst in recent memory or all time. What does George W. Bush have to do with anything when it comes to my episodes of Monday Night Raw? I don't watch wrestling and want to think, oh, this is because we're paying homage to probably one of the worst presidents of all time. Just saying. From what I've heard, I was like either not alive or just a baby when he was in the office. But I've heard that he made some pretty bad mistakes as president. You know, the no new taxes thing. Yeah, you can't say that as a president. But what does his death have to do with Monday Night Raw? It makes no sense why you would sit there and be like, oh, well, we got to lift the somber moods. Really? So Vince McMahon rewriting the entire show, how did that help? It didn't help anything. Nobody went home happy. Nobody went home happy. I'm sorry. This show was not as bad as last week, but it was still a pretty bad show. And you're probably wondering, how did the ratings do? Well, both shows, Raw and SmackDown, suffered from low ratings. This week's SmackDown we'll talk about first, featuring AJ Styles defeating The Miz in the main event, drew 1.948 million viewers. This is down 14% from last week's SmackDown. In the second lowest audience as the Blue Band moved to Tuesday night, barely beating the 1.921 million viewers from election night on November 8, 2016, which makes sense because it's election night, which was the last time the show drew 2 million viewers, under 2 million viewers outside election night. This is the lowest SmackDown audience in the first run non-holiday episode. This was a big In comparison, Raw drew 2.285 million views, down from last week's 2.369 million views and the lowest viewership in Raw history. Why does SmackDown have such a low rating? Simple. Raw has been terrible. SmackDown was a pretty good show. It wasn't the best show of all time, but it was probably one of the best SmackDowns of 2018. But when people watch Monday Night Raw and they see how bad this show is going and how bad this show is doing, why are they going to go and watch SmackDown? This isn't WCW versus WWE or Impact Wrestling versus WWE or New Japan versus WWE. It's the same company. They're written and they're wrote and they're booked by the same people. They're not going to sit there, you're not going to have fans go, well, I'll see what SmackDown's up to. No, you're pushing fans away. And fans are like, ugh. And the reason Raw is at 2.285 instead of probably below 2 million is because they have 3 hours and that adds up to a bigger number. Trust me, if Monday Night Raw was on a 2-hour run like SmackDown Live is, I'm pretty sure they'd be under 2 million. SmackDown, I'm gonna have to say, is gonna have to get these numbers up because they're coming to Fox. And right now, I'm telling you right now, 1.9848 million viewers is not going to cut it on Fox. If you're not in the 3s, 4, or 5s for Fox, you will be gone like that. They will not even last 6 months on Fox. We won't even make it to WrestleMania on Fox if we're still scrolling through around 1.948 million. It's not going to work. You cannot have that low number and expect Fox to sit there and be happy with it. They've canceled shows that got more viewers than what SmackDown got this week. Living on the talk online right now, this Becky Lynch has been starting to cool off a little bit, which if you're that kind of person, you are an idiot. I'm going to tell you right now, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Rumble Access tickets have gone out for certain events that are going to happen on Rumble weekend. There's going to be meet and greets with certain superstars and everything. Becky Lynch is one of those superstars, and tickets sold out quite quick. SmackDown champion Becky Lynch took to Twitter today, I think it was like 2 days ago or something, and revealed that her VIP signing for Royal Rumble Access event sold out in 90 seconds. Lynch wrote, they tell me that my Royal Rumble VIP access sold out in 90 seconds. I see and hear you all. All the t-shirts, the signs, the posts, the love, the man sees you all. They didn't expect us, but here we are. Rumble Access takes place on Friday, January 25th through Sunday, January 27th from the Phoenix Convention Center in Phoenix, Arizona. Tickets go on sale on the general public this Friday, or yesterday, December 7th at 12 p.m. Eastern through Ticket Force. Tickets are $45 for general admission, $100 for VIP, and $150 for premium VIP. Children 2 years older, 2 years under are free. Now, a little update to this because the Ace Comic Convention, I have no idea if it's Comic-Con or it's Ace Comic Convention, actually has also put out there that due to scheduling conflicts for Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair, both of those two will not be able to make it. But if you bought tickets to see Roman, you're going to get a refund. But if you bought tickets to see Charlotte Flair, you're getting an upgrade because Becky Lynch is going to be subbing in for Charlotte Flair. So anybody who thinks that Becky Lynch is cooling off You are got to be one of the dumbest people in the world. She is the hottest thing on WWE TV right now. And I didn't read it. I haven't listened to it lately. But when I was looking through news articles, one of the things was JR claims that none of the guys are as hot as Becky Lynch, and how he would plan to book WrestleMania 35's main event. Clearly, Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey is the match that should be headlining WrestleMania. Nobody. I mean, Asuka gets a nice little crowd reaction. Charlotte gets an okay crowd reaction, but Becky Lynch is the hottest act in WWE. I'm quite surprised. Well, they've tried. They've tried to kill off her what I want to say. They tried to kill off Becky Lynch's hotness, how hot she is with the crowd, how hot the crowd is for her. They've tried. They had to come out and shit on the fans. It didn't work. She even made fun of Edge's neck injury, and the crowd ate that up and freaking cheered her. It's like, yeah, let's get out of this ring, you pussy. So WWE is just going to have to roll with it until she cools off, and if she keeps doing what she does, she's not going to cool off until after WrestleMania. Becky Lynch cannot be pinned until she loses the Raw Women's Championship, because she should be beating... I'm just going to say it. If it's Backlash or whatever it is, Becky Lynch... Well, no, not Backlash. Becky Lynch should hold the Raw Women's Championship till SummerSlam, and whoever she loses to it then, that's who she loses it to. Becky Lynch will be, as long as they keep doing this right, Becky Lynch should be the hottest act going into SummerSlam 2019 in Toronto, Canada. I believe they're in Toronto. Yeah. Speaking of the women, WWE considering another all-women's pay-per-view next year. According to Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE is considering a, not king, but Queen of the Ring tournament involving the women of the main roster. It was noted that it's just an idea being thrown around at this point, but the company is looking for the ideas for a second all-women's pay-per-view in 2019, considering how successful Evolution was. Why can't we just have Evolution be the women's pay-per-view? Why does it have to be Queen of the Ring? There's already a women's tournament. Why can't the men get a tournament? Why can't the men get King of the Ring with the winner? If you're going to do Queen of the Ring, give me a King of the Ring. Give me King of the Ring, in which we get... I don't care if it's, like, you get King of the Ring in June and then Queen of the Ring in July. The winners of those two pay-per-views get the championship opportunity at SummerSlam for their respective brand. So if a Raw male wrestler gets the King of the Ring, he gets the number one contender. He gets to go for the Universal title at SummerSlam. If a SmackDown woman gets the Queen of the Ring, then she gets the... what do you want to say? She gets the SmackDown Women's Championship opportunity at SummerSlam. But we already have a women's tournament. It's called the Mae Young Classic. Why do we need another one? There is absolutely no called reason for us to have this to happen. It's an idea, but it doesn't need to happen. Just give women Evolution every single year in October. There's no reason to have another all-women's pay-per-view. You already have one. Evolution should be your brand. And this time, when you have an all-women's pay-per-view, you focus on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK. We do not need to see Trish, Lita, Molly Holly, Kelly, Michelle McCool, Tori Wilson, or anybody else from before this time. Unless they're coming back for a full-time gig, I don't want to see them on another pay-per-view. I don't want to see Trish Stratus in the Royal Rumble. I don't want to see Lita in the Royal Rumble. I don't want to see any of it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of Queen of the Ring. Did you want to see that? Because I much rather have our Mae Young Classic, and that's it. And that's that. Back to Becky Lynch, though. SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch did not get physical in this week's episode of SmackDown because WWE doctors have not cleared her for action. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, this is also why Becky Lynch has not worked recent live events. Becky Lynch was cleared from her concussion that she suffered at the hands of Nia Jax, aka Miss Facebreaker, in November, but she has not been cleared from the nasal fracture. It should be noted that Becky Lynch teamed with Charlotte Flair to face Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville at this past Tuesday's Tribute to the Truth tapings. We do not have any details from the match, but it's possible she was heavily protected, which means that she probably came in and maybe did a clothesline, put one in the disarmer, tapped out whoever, while Charlotte Flair did the rest of this match. It's expected that she will be cleared within the next 10 days or so, as she is scheduled to defend her title against Asuka and Flair in the first ever women's TLC match, Triple Threat, at December 16th pay-per-view of TLC. Let me just say, Becky Lynch is not missing TLC. Becky Lynch missing TLC would be a damn shame. Trish wrestled with a broken nose for about 6 months, didn't she? Back like 3 or 4 months back in 2004, 2005. Didn't she wear one of those big plastic masks? Just have Becky wear one of those. Get her fitted for one of those face protectors. Have her go out there. It'd probably make her look like a badass if you get it done right. And then, if she wanted to, if you want to protect Becky Lynch, you have to do the match. You have Charlotte put her through the announce table with a powerbomb or whatever, make it a one-on-one match. Later on, she gets back up, she gets put through the tables on the outside, and somehow she loses it. She's going to lose the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. And this is the best way for them out of it. I would personally give it to Asuka, so you would have someone to look forward to at WrestleMania, and you could have but Charlotte and Becky Lynch be one of the final 4 of the Women's Royal Rumble, and Becky ends up eliminating Charlotte Flair. Make it the final 3. You have Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Nia Jax. Charlotte Flair gets eliminated by Nia Jax with the whole facebreaker punch, whatever, and then Becky Lynch is down, looks like she's out. Nia Jax has her fist pumped, ready for the face-breaking moment to do it again. She goes to punch her, Becky Lynch stops that and somehow gets her eliminated. And instead of making us wait until at the Elimination Chamber, Becky Lynch wins, and then she points down at Ronda Rousey and is like, I'm coming for your title. And that's how you set up WrestleMania. Going out of the wrestling world, before we do that, let me know what you think about this. How would you book Becky Lynch at TLC? We all know and all assume that she is going to lose the SmackDown Women's Championship. It's kind of obvious, the writing's on the wall. She doesn't need the championship right now. I would love it to be Asuka, but we all figure and it's probably all going to be going to Charlotte Flair. We'll talk about that in about a week. Let's talk about the XFL here, my thoughts on this. XFL officials hosted a press conference on Wednesday at MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. The press conference was opened by the New Jersey Governor, Philip Murphy. He thanked Vince McMahon, WWE's John Sabor, XFL Commissioner and CEO Oliver Luck, and the entire XFL team. Murphy said Jersey is thrilled to welcome them. He also commented on that on Wednesday being a national day, on mourning for President Bush's 41, then pointing to the various elected officials in the audience. Murphy touted how MetLife has hosted Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, and the NFL Super Bowl, among others. MetLife is currently home to 2 other professional football teams, so that they have room for a third. I highly doubt that. And New Jersey couldn't be happy to be one of the host sites for the 2020 revival season because, of course, out of all the teams that are all the areas that are coming back from the original XFL, New York, New Jersey would be one of them. Not a surprise there. Murphy said it's not just what happens on the field that matters, it's the job, the economical impact of thousands of fans coming to the area. Murphy said the return of the XFL will be a welcome addition to many families across the region that rely on the stadium to stay strong. Murphy added that the WWE brand has been a marquee name in African American households for decades, one that has touched fans across generations in the world. Murphy thinks the XFL has everything they need right here in this region. MetLife in the Meadowlands will be ready when the XFL kicks off. Murphy introduces the one and only singular Vince McMahon. Now, before we go any further, I'm sitting here watching this, and Vince McMahon was only. Which, first off, Vince McMahon lied about the fact that he was asked during his original announcement press conference in January, I believe it was, or February, that he was asked, how involved will Vince McMahon be? How often will we see him? And Vince McMahon said, this will be the only time you see me when it comes to the XFL. We're going to hire a CEO, a chairman who's going to take over for all this. And as you can see, that was a bold-faced lie because Vince McMahon came out. Second point about this. I'm watching this, and the 2-3 minutes that Vince McMahon was out here, the dude could barely talk. Like, you could barely, there were people making fun of him on Twitter with how he's, like, slurring his words. You can't understand half of what he's saying. It was just not a good look for Vince McMahon, and I was thinking, this guy's writing my Raw? This guy's the one, he's the man who gave us that shit show last week, and the guy who gave us the show we got this week. It's time to remove the pen from Vince McMahon. It is time to remove the pen from Vince McMahon. If you've seen him on these press conferences, and this is what's sad though, is because the announcement of the relaunch in the XFL was in February, and you could understand, and he was fine then. What the hell happened to Vince McMahon since February or March? Like, I think it was February. It was the beginning of February, right? Or the end of January, whenever. He sounded fine then. Come back to this past Wednesday, and he just looked awful. He looked awful. He sounded awful. You could hardly understand what he was saying. And I'm like, this is the guy in charge of Monday Night Raw. This is the guy who sat down 3 hours before Raw and rewrote Raw to try and make everything seem like all hunky-dory, happy-go-lucky. Are you kidding me? It's just time to remove the pen from Vince McMahon. Vince wished everyone a good morning and thanked everyone for being there. He also thanked the 8 city representatives and the venues that the XFL is partnering with for the inaugural season. He also thanked the media, and we're not going to go into any more of this. He brought out Oliver Luck. Luck called it a momentous day, and they went through a couple other things. They talked about the rules, which are actually videos on the XFL YouTube page that goes over what they're working on to actually get this right this time, because if anybody remembers, the last time they did the XFL was announced a year before it was to launch. They had their team's name. They like, as the year went on, they started announcing where everybody would be playing, and then like it wasn't like this past Wednesday. It was cities and venues. That was it. Oliver Luck on an ABC affiliate in Tampa Bay said that the names, colors, and logos will all be done in first quarter 2019. But last time, name, city, venue, team names, and logos were all done in wherever they were going to. And they did the draft. They really didn't have any time to balance the game with the rules that they wanted to put in. And it was just doomed from the start. This time, as you see, if you go to the XFL YouTube page, there are people going to junior colleges and stuff and working on what their game is going to be. I've watched them. I like some of the things they wanted to do, like they're doing this 5-foot halo around the punt returner, so there's no fair catch, but nobody can touch you for 5 feet, so you get those chances to see those exciting run backs that everybody wants. Don't lie to me if you're a football person. You love to see somebody run a punt return back. Same thing with a kickoff. Noted that 30 cities expressed interest in securing the XFL team. The league thought it was important not to just look at coming into a city and renting a building. The goal was to establish true partnerships with building organizations that they have a year-round presence in the cities. Then why don't you pick 7 of the 8 places? The 8 teams and venues for the inaugural season were announced, and they following are: New York City at MetLife Stadium, Dallas Global Life Park in Arlington, Texas, home of the Texas Rangers right now until 2020. Houston at the TDECU Stadium, which I believe is, I have no idea. Los Angeles at the StubHub Center, where the Los Angeles Chargers play. St. Louis, the Dome of America Centers. That one makes 100% sense because St. Louis, they get robbed of the Rams. Seattle at CenturyLink Field, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't see them making a dent in Seattle, which is kind of funny because the day before Seattle got approved for an NHL team, so Seattle's doing great. Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadiums, and Washington, D.C. at Audi Field. And you can go and put deposit down for season tickets for all 8 teams. You go to XFL.com or the XFL website or XFL's Twitter page. You can see all their teams' Twitter handles and their follow page and everything else. So, the only one for me of these 8 teams that made sense completely 100%, and I agree 100% on, is St. Louis. St. Louis got robbed of the Rams when the owner of the Rams just said, haha, I want to go to LA, fuck St. Louis, and we're gone. So that right there is a check mark for me. that one's going to be an easy sell if the game is good. The Dome at America's Center, which used to be Edward Jones Dome, I believe is what it was called, Edward Jones Dome, is probably going to be the best place to play because St. Louis has no other, like, other than the Cardinals. I think the St. Louis Cardinals is all they have left now. They have a baseball team, which is going to be interesting because you do have baseball going on the second half of the XFL season. So, yeah. New York, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Washington. Now, for those who are wondering about Chicago, Orlando, and a couple other places, there were domains for the XFL. They did register, Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, Orlando, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and 6 or 7 other team domains. If this is a successful season, do I expect them to expand up to 16 teams right away? No. Maybe 2 seasons in, they say, well, we're going to expand to 10. Or we're going to expand to 10. Okay, 10 teams, that's fine. Then, after another year of success, we'll go up to 12. Okay, fine. So if you want to see an XFL team in your area, what you need to do is support this venture so when they do expand, you could see your XFL team coming in 2021, 2022, or 2023. Luck noted that a quarter of the United States population is represented in these 8 cities. I don't buy that. And a good chunk of the I hate it when football season ends fans are there. We also know that fans can place a deposit on the season tickets now before they go on sale to the general public. They will be making hires, announcing team names and logos and more in the coming months. Luck said the quality of football is their number 1 priority, and they will do everything they can to get it right. Luck said that the XFL will be fast-paced, affordable, family-friendly, interactive, and technically advanced as possible. Luck ended the press by saying the XFL is being built for fans and built to last. That final line is being built for fans. Well, if this is built for fans, my suggestion is have fans suggest team names for all 8. Say, don't do them all at once. Say you do New York first. Have a list of names. Just have the fans suggest names for them, and then have Twitter polls. Have a Twitter poll for team names, and then you can just knock it down to where eventually you have each name named for your teams because of the fans. If this is built for the fans, then you got to have the fans name the teams. Don't just come out with the Enforcers or the Outlaws or the Hitmen or anything else. Give us, you say this is built for the fans. Well, have the fans name the teams. Have the fans pick the colors. Have okay, say you have the Dallas the Dallas Rangers. Just gonna go with that. Go and we don't have to do the color schemes. Have 4 or 5 different colors. Have 4 different pictures of colors for those. Have 4 if you want to make this for the fans, there are some talented, and I mean talented graphic artists out there who have them. If somebody's a fan of the XFL and they're a graphics artist, hire them in. Have 4 or 5 graphics artists who are up and coming people who actually do stuff on Twitch, Twitter, logos, and all that stuff. Have them come up with the logos. Have them have their logos voted on, and have them, and the winner can make the logo, do the everything. You bring them in, you have them do the logo, the end zones, and everything. Do that. Then it would be hey, the fans are being brought in. The fans are the ones doing this, and it would just be something great. But maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the XFL. As Oliver Luck said, the teams, names, logos, and colors will all be done in the first quarter of 2019, which is January, February, and March. Back to WWE. WWE is currently interested in New Japan Superstar, but before we get to that, let me know in the comment section below what you think of these 8 cities, which again are New York, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Washington, D.C. And if you are excited for the XFL, give me a name for each one of these teams. Say you're a St. Louis fan. Maybe you want to see a St. Louis team. Give me a St. Louis name down in the comment section. Tampa Bay, Seattle. Let me know if you were in charge of naming the XFL teams. What would you name them? Let me know. Moving on now. Again, current and New Japan star WWE has some interest in. WWE reportedly has interest in another top star from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Kushida, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. There has been talk of signing Kushida for weeks, and that talk has picked up as of late. Not going to yell anymore. Kushida is currently under contract with New Japan until the end of January, and he is scheduled to defend his title against Taiji Ishimori, aka the Bone Soldier, at the big Wrestle Kingdom 13 show on January 4th. I actually want to see that match. Taiji Ishimori, I've actually seen some of Impact Wrestling. I saw Kushida last year during the World Culture Pro Wrestling, as they knew at the time, World Cup. I would honestly love to see Kushida versus Taiji Ishimori. Regarding WWE's interest in Kushida, the Observer notes that we shouldn't be hearing about WWE possibly signing him because he's under contract with New Japan. This could be a sign that WWE is getting even more aggressive with signing talent and not caring about contracts. There's a feeling that no one would take action against WWE for talking with contracted talents, with the possible exception of MLW and Ring of Honor. That's not to say New Japan wouldn't take any action against WWE, but it would be a difficult process as they are based in Japan. Kushida is not the only New Japan talent that WWE has their eyes on, and his signing obviously is not a done deal. But they are confident about him potentially coming in, as they have discussed one idea that you see him used on the NXT brand. I would not want to see Kushida in WWE. NXT, yes, but I know, you know, everyone else knows. He would come in NXT, he would be used there, and then he would be 205 Live bound. If he wouldn't go to 205 Live, he would go to Raw or SmackDown. And he would get the Andrade Cien Almas treatment. He would be brought up, and we would see him maybe once, like every 3 or 4 weeks, and then we would forget about him because he would be gone. Kushida, stay in New Japan. You can work independent dates wherever you're at. You worked in World Culture or / Defiant last year. You work Ring of Honor as well. You are doing great. They need you for the Ring of Honor. They need you for the Ring of Honor show, the Ring of Honor New Japan show in G1 Supercard. I'm trying to think. Yeah, G1 Supercard. New Japan needs Kushida for that show. He needs to stay there. Don't come to WWE. They already have enough talent. This entire hiring, because they're afraid, even though they say they're not afraid of All Elite Wrestling or Ring of Honor or New Japan, has got to stop. You're bringing in talent too much at a time. They're signing way too much talent that they don't know what to do with it. They need to just take a freeze, and most of the talent they're looking to try and sign now will most likely be there in 7, 8, 9 months. So, Kushida, just stay where you're at. You don't need to come to WWE. You would probably do great in NXT, but that would be the ceiling before he would be just forgotten. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, because I think Kushida, I actually cannot wait to see Kushida versus Taiji Ishimori. I definitely got to check that match out. But Kushida to WWE, if I was him, I would stay in New Japan. Got a little update here on Alexa Bliss. Earlier this week, via Dave Meltzer and F4W Online, Alexa Bliss has not been fully cleared. This is contradicting something that Mark Henry said on his podcast earlier this week. For in-ring action by the doctors, this update came after Hall of Fame Mark Henry stated during a Busted Open radio interview that Bliss was 100% cleared. In an update on Bliss's status, Brian Alvarez noted on Wrestling Observer Live that there has been talk of Bliss staying out of action until 2019's Royal Rumble pay-per-view in late January. This has not been confirmed, and this should be taken as a rumor for now. Alvarez also revealed that Bliss has been training in a special ring at the WWE Performance Center. We noted earlier that Bliss finally returned to in-ring training at the Performance Center last week after being out for a while with concussion issues. It was also reported that medical staff were watching closely as Bliss took light bumps at the Performance Center. Bliss was actually taking much lighter bumps as she was working in the special ring that is basically a crash pad with ring ropes. If you watched any of those Breaking Grounds or any other time they show anything in the Performance Center, they have like 5 rings. And the 5th ring is actually not a crash pad. It's actually, it looks like, from what I've seen of it, it's a built ring, but it has foam in it. It has foam blocks and stuff in it, so you can do. That's what people who want to try out new dives. Like if you want to learn how to do the 450, you do it in there first so you can hit it right. Or if you want to do a swanton or something off the top rope, that's pretty much where they do that. Dubbed the high flyer ring, it was built with a crash pad that's almost 1 foot thick, which helps absorb the impact of talent during their bumps. The ring allows talent to work on their high-risk moves without the fear of getting hurt. The crash pad ring uses material similar to pads used for action movie sets, and it was inspired by the kids' foam ring that is used at the WrestleMania Access event. There you go. Bliss was training in this crash pad ring so that they could make sure she's able to take the softer bumps without the concussion symptoms getting worse, or aka vertigo. It seems to me that's where Alexa Bliss trains most of the time anyway, because she is afraid to take bumps as it is. Bliss, who has been limited clearance for physical activity, suffered multiple concussions in a short period of time, which, as Corey Graves would tell you, is usually the KOD for your career in WWE. Because Corey Graves suffered multiple concussions within a short period of time, and I think it was in that E60 special that they did for ESPN, they actually highlighted this, and this was before Bill Lamont left WWE, how Bill Lamont said that Corey Graves pretty much just lost it, because what else would you do? The guy was told that you were susceptible to concussions, and you were disqualified from wrestling in WWE. WWE is going to do everything they can to get Alexa Bliss in the ring again. The biggest problem with concussions is the fact that if she's cleared, and I guarantee you, she gets 1 or 2 more concussions, she's done. Alexa Bliss will be forced to retire. The last one reportedly happening in late October of this year, WWE has kept her off TV as the storyline boss of Raw. Kept her on TV for the Raw's Women's Division, but there's been no word on when she might wrestle another match. Alvarez reported did not indicate if there was talk of having her wrestle in the build-up to the Rumble, or if she would be in the actual 30-woman Rumble match. For those who missed it, Henry talked to Busted Open about a recent conversation he had with Bliss, where it revealed just how bad she was with concussion systems. He said, we sat and talked about 15-20 minutes, and she's like, yeah, I was really bad off. I couldn't remember where I was. I couldn't remember what I was doing in the city. Where we were flying from London to Switzerland, and she said I couldn't remember that flight or anything. I had to rely on everyone else telling me what to do. I couldn't stand up straight. I had vertigo. She said she was in a bad way, and then she came back too soon. Banged her head again, and that was really in a bad place. That's another problem with... This isn't just WWE. This is a problem with sports athletes. They get a concussion, and they'll come back too early. You see it in the NFL all the time, where you have guys who suffer a concussion, and they want to get back on the field immediately, and then they get on the field immediately, and they get hit again, and they're done. They're done for the rest of, for about 4 or 5 weeks because of multiple concussions, and then people get fired, people get in trouble. WWE, who made Daniel Bryan retire for 2 years, 2 years, due to concussion problems. WWE takes concussions real seriously. I mean, they just beat a concussion lawsuit a couple months ago. We talked about on Unscripted. I believe it was 36, I think it was in 36 or something, where we talked about that concussion lawsuit being thrown out. But WWE making sure that she doesn't come out of this again with another concussion, and that's the biggest fear they have, because Raw's the women's division is trash as it is. Alexa Bliss wrestling, not wrestling, doesn't really make a damn difference. It doesn't. Now, when it comes to Alexa Bliss, though, again, if she gets back and she goes to the Royal Rumble, and say she gets hit with an elbow in the head, or she gets punched in the face in something, or gets kneed in the head, and she suffers another concussion, I'm probably sure that's going to be it for her. So, even if she's able to come back from this, she is on borrowed time. Because if she goes through and gets another concussion, she'll have to be diagnosed with being susceptible to concussions and be disqualified from WWE. It's been about 2 years or so, but Rob Van Dam was on a podcast, or ran his own podcast, and people asked him why has he not been back in WWE, because of a head injury that he had, or he had a couple of concussions at an independent show where he was disqualified from working for WWE again. So Alexa Bliss I I'm going to hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure Alexa Bliss by the end of 2019 will be retired from WWE. I could be totally wrong, but by the end of next year, it could be Alexa Bliss is already retired and doing something else. Maybe she's on commentary on SmackDown, you have Renee Young on Raw, and Alexa Bliss on SmackDown, which honestly, that's if she ends up having to retire due to concussions, there you go. Let me know what you think about that down in the comment section below. It's really going to be hard for Alexa Bliss to come back and actually do anything. Finally, guys, we're going to finish it up here with we have some news on AJ Styles and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows expiring contracts. As previously reported, the WWE contracts of AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson expire next year. While all three former members of Bullet Club debuted around the same time, a couple months apart in early 2016, their deals are not expiring in early 2019, as some have speculated. PW Insider reports that Styles' contract expires in April of 2019, while Carl Anderson and Gallows will see their contracts expire in September of 2019. There's no word yet on WWE's plans for re-signing them, but it's likely that they have already discussed a renewal with Styles. Styles, of course, debuted with WWE at the Royal Rumble in January 2016 and has been booked as a top star ever since. It is believed that he will stay with WWE. Gallows and Anderson debuted the week after WrestleMania 32, but they had one Raw Tag Team title reign since signing, and it barely lasted 2 months as they won it. It was over 2 months because they won it at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, it was barely over 2 months because they won it at the pre-show of the Royal Rumble and then lost them at WrestleMania. They have been reduced to just another tag team on the mid-card, if that. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2019 as New Japan reportedly has interest in bringing back Gallows, Anderson, and the United States Champion Shinsuke Nakamura. According to a report from mid-October, there was no mention of the company wanting Styles back, but it's likely they would negotiate with him if he was interested in leaving WWE. The report from October stated there was talk of Gallows being interested in returning to Japan, but it was believed that Nakamura and Anderson would stay with WWE because of their lives here in the United States, among other reasons. Telling right now, AJ Styles is going absolutely nowhere. AJ Styles is a WWE lifer for the rest of his career. AJ Styles has already pointed out, and whatever contract, because it's already been talked about that he's renewing his contract with WWE. It would not surprise me that AJ Styles' new contract, when it comes out, is that it starts as a superstar contract and it transitions into a coach for NXT in the Performance Center, because he's already said, I believe on the Steve Austin podcast, on the WWE Network when he was there, that when he's done wrestling, that's what he wants to do. AJ Styles is going nowhere. Anderson and Gallows, honestly, in my opinion, should leave, not go to Japan, but if All Elite Wrestling is a thing, I would leave and go there. Work with the Young Bucks. You got the friends with the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes, I'm pretty sure too. Nakamura, I don't know what they're going to do with him. I'd say if I was him, I'd leave too and go to the All Elite Wrestling too. I'm sure you would have you would look better and do better there. But no, AJ Styles is going nowhere. Is AJ Styles going to be in WWE as a superstar for the rest of his life? No. I'd say he's probably got another 2 years at the most before he calls it a career and transitions into a coach. Could we possibly see him have another World Championship reign? Of course. I would not be surprised if in 2018 AJ Styles regains the WWE Championship for a third time, but he's not going to hold it for 371 days. He might become a transitional champion, which here's the thing. If in 2019, WrestleMania, after WrestleMania, SummerSlam, whenever, AJ Styles wins the WWE Championship again, if he does, what should happen, period, is that he's a transitional champion, but he's putting over a young guy like an Andrade Cien Almas, like an Aleister Black, or Gargano, or Ciampa, whoever it is. If AJ Styles was to win the WWE Championship again, it would be for like a month. He would hold it, and he'd be putting a guy like Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, or Andrade Cien Almas over as a future star. But that's how I would do it. Again, Nakamura, Anderson, Gallows, I'd say those guys should find somewhere else to go because they're not doing anything half the time. You mean Nakamura is the United States champion, and what has he done with it? Nothing. Gallows and Anderson had done nothing since they won those Raw Tag Team Champions. They came to SmackDown. Honestly, AJ Styles was brought in and became a big star. Anderson and Gallows were just brought in to be his heavies. That's all it felt like to me. When the brand split happened, and Gallows and Anderson were left on Monday Night Raw, and AJ Styles was drafted to SmackDown. It just felt like they were nothing without AJ Styles. And this is sad because I hear and I know they're really good. Gallows and Anderson just felt inferior to what they did when they were part of the club with AJ Styles. They're all three on SmackDown, so maybe you bring the club back together. I know for a couple months in December of last year, January of this year, and maybe February too, they did the whole quote unquote Balor Club with Balor, Anderson, and Gallows, but it just didn't feel the same for those two guys because when they came in, they had this hot start. They beat up the Usos, and then they had the club versus the family of the Usos and Roman Reigns versus Gallows, Anderson, and AJ Styles. That was the hardest and the most relevant that they were. When they did the whole Balor Club thing, it was just, whatever. But that is going to be your Unscripted for Saturday of December 8, 2018. We'll be back here next week for the next to last episode of the year. I don't know exactly what week we're going to be taking off, but we are going to be taking off one of the last 2 weeks of the year. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment down below, as we said at the beginning of the show, like or dislike this video. Hit that, find me on Twitter at TheFrance again, find me on twitch.tv/TheFrance08. Thank you to everybody who has watched every single one of my videos. Give me a comment down below. I take criticism too. If you want to criticize, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, oh, his mic sucks, oh, his voice is terrible, let me know. I'm ready for it. Just give me some criticism if you need to. If you like what I see, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let me know below. Until then, my name is TheFrance, and I'm getting out of here.